Well, it's about that time for another 2014 NFL mock draft. If you want a good laugh or a chuckle, and you love to make fun of bad general managers and bad drafts, well, I've got a treat for you. In the description box down below is the link to my Matt Millen mock draft on WalterFootball.com. I think you'll get a very big kick out of it if you understand what it gets at. So, after you watch this video and you look at the actual legit mock draft here, this pre-free agency one-round mock draft version, go read that Matt Millen mock draft. I think a lot of you will get a kick out of it. Now, as I said, the mock draft this time around, this March 5th, 2014 edition, is kind of that pre-free agency version where things are going to change a lot in the next week or two. Teams are going to fill holes. Teams are going to sign players. So this mock draft and this draft board is probably going to change a lot in the weeks to come. Now, I also this time didn't factor in any trades or anything, frankly, because I just wanted to save some time. And I feel like until I see free agency play out, it's really hard to project trades because you don't know how desperately somebody is going to be wanting to fill a hole or how desperately somebody is going to want to be to trade back. So I just kept it nice and simple for this one. Now, as we look at it, and like I said, you can follow along with me here in the description box down below. I've got all 32 picks here in the first round. I'm just looking at my notes here. Some of the things that stand out. I still think Houston's going to take a quarterback at number 1, and I think that quarterback is going to be Blake Bortles. I may end up being wrong, but for the moment, I envision that being the guy that Bill O'Brien would want the most. He's an offensive-minded head coach. I think he's going to want an offensive player, number 1, and he's going to want a new quarterback because he knows that the Texans are still a talented team, but they need a young quarterback to help that franchise and breathe some life into that franchise. No more get-me-bys like a Matt Schaub. It's time to find that guy. I don't necessarily agree that Blake Bortles is that guy, but he probably is that guy for Bill O'Brien at this point in time. When you look at this mock draft, this is a combination of things. This is kind of a combination of where players might go. This also might be a combination of what teams might take certain players, even if it's not necessarily at that spot. Like, for example, if the Rams were to trade out of pick 2 and let's say go back to pick 6 where Atlanta is, I'm assuming St. Louis would be very, very interested in a Greg Robinson if he was still there. That's why I have him slotted at number 2, but I also look at it in terms of the talent of the player, that maybe he belongs at that second pick. You'll see Clowney falling to 3 at Jacksonville. If somehow he did get to Jacksonville at 3, I'd envision it being very difficult for a Gus Bradley and a David Caldwell to pass up on him. You'll notice I've got Cleveland taking somebody that's not a quarterback with that 4th overall pick in terms of Sammy Watkins. It might be one of those things that in this particular mock, I've got the quarterbacks dropping a bit, so Cleveland might feel that they're better suited to get a better overall player with number 4 and roll the dice with being able to get a quarterback with their second first-round pick, maybe even if they had to move up a couple of slots from 26. Now, in terms of some of the other players, as I'm looking here, that kind of stand out, you could see Mike Evans, I think, shoot up draft boards because I think he did just enough at the combine to establish that he had just enough athleticism and speed to allay some teams' concerns about his ability to get separation at the next level. When you take his size and his physicality into account, it would not surprise me if a certain team sat there and took him over Sammy Watkins. That might sound crazy now, but by God, crazier things have happened. And that's why I have the Oakland Raiders taking him at number 5. In terms of some of the other things that stand out to me, you'll notice I've got Taylor Lewan, the offensive tackle from Michigan, going number 9 to Buffalo, and I've got Jake Matthews dropping to number 11 at Tennessee. I think somebody might look at a Taylor Lewan and feel that he's a better left tackle prospect than a Jake Matthews is. Jake Matthews is solid, but he might not have enough upside or enough of that spectacular kind of wow factor for somebody to want to take him into the top 10. You'll notice I've got 4 receivers going by the time you get to pick 18. I've got Odell Beckham actually going to 17 at Baltimore, and then Brandin Cooks from Oregon State going 18 to the Jets. This is a very good wide receiver class. I actually think this quarterback class is better than it's given a lot of credit for, frankly. I think too many people are too quick to sit there and say, oh, he's not Andrew Luck, so he sucks. Well, not every draft has multiple guys like that. And, with 2012, remind you, it was all about Luck and RG3, and nobody else really mattered. And now 2 years later, people realize, oh, that's not the case at all whatsoever. You look at 2011, it was Cam Newton's a reach, everybody else is a reach where they're going to be taken. This isn't a good quarterback class, but Newton goes #1. And then you've got a guy like Kaepernick that gets drafted in round 2. The point is that sometimes the NFL people and sometimes the draft experts, the draft nicks, undersell quarterback classes. I think this quarterback class is very good. I think it's very deep. It might lack that elite level talent, but I also think that there's a misperception in terms of the guys that everybody thinks maybe are some of the top quarterback prospects versus who actually are some of the top quarterback prospects. In terms of other guys I've got rising up the board, I know I've got Aaron Donald slotted at 16. I don't think he ends up there. I think he goes a little bit higher, hopefully to my Bears at 14. You'll notice I've got Justin Gilbert going #8 to Minnesota. Darqueze Dennard, if I could talk, going to St. Louis at 13. Jason Verrett going 25 to San Diego. Kyle Fuller going 30 to San Francisco. So there are a few corners that are going to crack the first round. It's a shame for a guy like a Jason Verrett. If he was 6 foot or 6'1", he would easily probably be a top 10 pick in this draft. But a team, I've got him slotted here to San Diego at 25. If they can overlook the size concerns and realize that this guy is perhaps the most complete corner in the college draft class this year and reminds you a lot of somebody like an Antoine Winfield, well, that's a steal at number 25. Guys that I've got that are dropping a little bit, I've been calling it for a while that I think Anthony Barr is going to drop, and I have him dropping all the way to number 27 at New Orleans. I've got Timmy Jernigan dropping to number 29 in New England. Part of the reason for that is sometimes certain guys just don't fit certain schemes. And a guy like Timmy Jernigan, most teams will probably look at as a 3 technique under tackle in a 4-3, and they might not view him as a 3-4 defensive end, let's say. I think Hageman from Minnesota is going to rise a little bit. You've noticed I've got Derek Carr going to Arizona at 20 and Johnny Manziel going number 26. Again, that could be a combination of teams that would take them versus the spots where they could be taken. Maybe another team would trade up to get them. I don't think there's necessarily a ton of big changes here compared to mock drafts I've done in the past. Quite a number of these picks are pretty much in line with what I've done before. But like I said, once free agency happens, a lot of this is going to change, and it will change. And for a lot of the so-called expert mock drafts that you've seen so far, I promise you a lot of theirs are going to change in the next couple of months. They'll just be coming more in line with what the Schleg Daddy's been telling you.